Dear Dominic, thank you very much for your interview with me. I would like to ask, are contemporary flute techniques a way to express or shape compositional thought?
Hi, Iwona. Thanks for having me here. The answer is absolutely yes. The techniques are an essential part of, the process of creating music. I think, even if you just generally look at the way music composing, creating has evolved within the so-called, Western notated musical tradition, you can see how the instruments build was evolving, and that impacted, influenced different techniques. And then this gave composers ideas for how to write for these instruments. And, so the composers were thinking of different sounds at a particular time to composers before. In general, yes, but in my case, very much so, because for me, it's the actual techniques in the sense of the relationship between the performer and the instrument that is the primary source of the musical material. So, I don't compose so much through thinking in abstract terms about the parameters such as pitch, rhythm, and how to structure them in those kinds of abstract terms, in these kinds of, more traditional modernist, 20th century modernist kind of way. But it has more to do with that physical aspect of producing sound. So the techniques are something that very much informs my composing. And I would just like to add that it's not just the techniques, but also the composers, but I'll come back to that later.
Which composers' works featuring contemporary flute techniques have made the greatest impression on you?
Well, yes, exactly. So I was just starting to think about, composers whose music has been important to me. And I think the first name that comes to my mind is Lisa Lim, Australian composer, and closely associated with Australian ensemble called Elysian, which this year celebrates its 40th anniversary. So there's a huge history of incredible achievements. And Liz's music has definitely played a great role in my development as a composer, especially in the 90s and from then on. And so her flute writing, for example, is very important and has been very influential on me, as well as music of some composers that are associated with Elysian. For example, Richard Barrett, and others as well. So the way they think about the flute in this case, for example, was very influential. I would also like to add that it's the performers, not just the composers, who are a great influence on my writing. I have been very lucky with flautists. I have written works for a number of fantastic flautists, and a number of great flautists, including yourself, have performed my music. So there is quite a bit of flute repertoire that I have produced over the years. So that's very nice.
Do you have bibliographies of contemporary flute techniques? If so, which ones?
Yes, I do. I have been referring to the well-known book by Pierre-Yves Artaud, The Present-Day Flutes, and I have been using this book for the last 30 years or so. So that's that's my kind of reference, and I have. The other bibliography is actually sometimes a physical human bibliography, such as the performer. So, for example, when I work with someone, we try things out. We experiment with the instrument. I remember being in Stockholm in 2009 and just spending some time with flautist Richard Craig, the Scottish flautist, and he was showing me, various things that he found himself on his flute. So things that are not in a bibliography, and we were trying to figure out how to notate it, how to call it. So that was really exciting. So yes, that's my reference.
Do you create a legend in your works with full descriptions of contemporary techniques?
Yes, I think it's important to include that, even though many of these techniques are actually well known to flautists today. I'm always surprised when I hear the term extended techniques for something like a key click or a tongue ram or a multiphonic or a timbral trill. I mean, these techniques have been in place and in use in music, I don't know, some of them since 1950s, 60s, certainly. And so that's at least half a century. So they are just normal techniques that are part of the vocabulary of the flute. But even though I think it's just standard practice and good practice for composers to include the explanation, the performance notes, at the start of the score. So yes, I do that as well.
Which contemporary flute techniques do you like best?
I like all of them. Perhaps at different times, I was interested in some range of more than in some others. For example, about 20 years ago, when I came up with this bass flute solo streamforms, there's a lot of percussive sounds, such as different ways of using the keys and combining that with the pizzicato way of playing, which is basically tonguing without blowing any air, tongue ram again. More recently, I think I'm very much interested in this idea of interfering into the let's say a little bit more normal sound of the instrument through the trill with the keys A and B, which it produces this kind of very sort of fluttering type of effect on top of the sound of any pitches that you might be producing at the same time. So it changes, but overall I try to integrate all kinds of sounds that the instrument can make, again, without this subdivision between the normal classical ways of playing and the extended techniques. They are all equal and all very much part of the vocabulary of the present day flute.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iwona.